A Volkswagen that is either loved for its nostalgia or deeply despised for its obscurity, the Volkswagen Fox defines a time where finding cheap alternatives was the norm. Now, moving into the 1980s, Volkswagen was on a roll with their Mark II Golf and Jetta, as well as their Quantum, Scirocco, and their T3. This was a pretty complete lineup, but in Volkswagen's mind they were missing something, a true budget model. Would it make sense to design a whole new vehicle to fill this purpose? Well, no. What Volkswagen instead did was travel down to VW do Brazil and devise a plan. That plan? Send two models to the US under the new name Fox. A little bit of a tangent here, but my assumption is that VW used the Fox name that was seen on the Audis in the 70s. These cars eventually did lead to the creation of the Passat, which is the basis for the Brazilian platform known as BX, seen on the two vehicles we're about to mention. Again, this is something I assume, so it's not technically factual. But to go back to VW's plans, they ended up using the Voyage and Parati as the base. Before their release in the US, a few noticeable changes were made to the cars to set them apart from their Brazilian versions. On the exterior, the headlights and grille were revised with a much more sunken-in design, and the bumpers were slightly larger. Under the hood, all the Foxes came with a fuel-injected 1.8 liter that was longitudinally mounted and a 4 or 5-speed manual transmission. This was for the most part the same as Brazil, but Brazil was still rocking carburetors on their 1.6 liter or 1.8 liter. There were a lot of aspects of the Fox that made it quite appealing, but by far the biggest draw was the price. Priced under every Volkswagen model, the Fox was an entry-level vehicle that was going to fill the shoes of the Beetle, which had been gone for nearly a decade in the States. This, in theory, should have helped with sales, but frankly it didn't do all that well. Like I said before, Volkswagen had a pretty complete lineup of vehicles, with barely any room for a new addition. Plus, other companies were already dominating in the entry-level market. The Yugo is a really good example of that. The initial run of the Fox between 1987 and 1989 included the 2- to 4-door sedan and 2-door wagon. But in 1990 to 1993, the wagon was discontinued and the facelift was created. This included much larger headlights and a new grille to fit with it. According to quite a few of my Brazilian buddies, this is called the Chinese front end. We won't go into why it's called that, but wanted to mention that. Under the hood, the 1.8 liter was now given Bosch's Digifont injection instead of the infamous CIS. But yeah, after the 1993 model year, Volkswagen was kind of done with this car. I mean, mostly because sales just were not what they expected and it just didn't make sense to continue on. Alright guys, what do you think of the Volkswagen Fox? Have you owned one? Do you hope to own one? Let me know.